Welcome to Justice on Earth, where the record must be kept.
Yeah. BEETV Productions. The Cultural Preservation Station. Tune in. Tune in. Hey, yo. Black education, cultural preservation. Tailor BEETV, but cause elevation. Tune into the station, we rockin' the whole nation. That's right, we rockin' the whole nation. Prepping new generation for mental activation. Tailor BEETV's the new sensation. Stop the hesitation and learn something new. My girl Taylor B's here to show and prove.
Peace, love, justice, and accountability, family. Welcome back to Justice on Earth Weekly. This is BEETV, where Black education empowers true vision. Of course, I am your host, Taylor B, and this is where we keep the record to protect our people and demand justice on Earth, replacing the system of white supremacy with a system of justice on planet Earth. This week, our main story is still case of Nolan Wells. We're going to give an update on that. Tonight's episode is going to be about transparency. Of course, we know Nolan was the 18-year-old who went to Horn Island with a group of friends on July 4th, and he did not come home. Since then, his family has been asking questions. The community has been watching. We're watching very closely to see what's going on. Several reports and several social media posts and claims have been circulating about the case. So tonight, what I want to do is I want to be very clear and I want to focus on not spreading more rumors or spreading false claims about the case. I am here to really separate what has been confirmed, what has been reported, what has been disputed, and what still needs to be answered, right? What's the unknown? When we ask for the truth, we have to make sure we keep the records, okay? Record keeping is a part of why we're even able to do our genealogy and trace ourselves back as far as we can on this land. So it's very important for us to document and keep the record about what's going on. Okay. So it's about the timeline, it's about the questions, right? It's about the family's demand for the answers that they're looking for, because all of these things are important when we talk about this case. And why we can't allow confusion to come or even let the noise from social media replace the real investigation, right? We got to keep everything clean and tight here because we know these people are trying to wiggle their way out of this. So the more rumors and things like that we spread is not going to be good for the case. So we want to keep everything really tight and succinct and just really spread the things that we do know because there's a lot that we know. So there's a lot that we could talk about, right? This is obviously not about attacking anyone without proof. Obviously, Nolan was unalived, he didn't come home. So this is about asking questions. This is not attacking people without proof, but we do want to ask questions and we want to get the claims that are being made. They need to be either legitimized or they need to be disputed and get taken out of the picture so we can really see what's going on in this timeline. So, when you're looking for justice, it does require discipline. Okay. It requires discipline. And we really need to document, like I was just talking about. Everything needs to be documented. You have to document and really make sure that you are separating truth from the falsehoods because the truth deserves to be on the record, right? This is why the record must be kept, right? So let's take a look at the timeline. I'm going to just put this up for us so we can take a look at the timeline and then we'll get back to it up here. Let's see if this is good. Of course, that's not up. There we go. Yep, I think that's pretty good. Let me do one thing. Why it's like this. All right. So matter of fact, let me make this big and I'll get myself out of it so we can have a big look at the timeline and kind of where we are. So when we're looking at the timeline, you can see I have confirmed, reported, or disputed up here because we want to make sure that we're keeping the timeline truthful. But we also still want all the claims to be here because they are important. It's important to look at them and it's important to investigate them. So what has been reported again is that Nolan Wells went to Horn Island with a group of friends. That's on July 4th. That has been confirmed. He was reported last seen that afternoon. When he did not return home, his mother contacted the authorities. A search was launched on July 5th. They had the multi search for Nolan, and the family began pushing for answers. July 6th, and a body believed to be Nolan's was found near Horn Island. The body was found matching Nolan's description, recovered near Horn Island. Between July 7th and July 10th, it's been reported that an official autopsy was performed. The results and toxicology report are still pending. During this time frame, the family did retain Ben Crump, who is a civil rights attorney. Crump seeking an independent autopsy and transparency in the investigation. So this is the links that the family had to go to. They had to hire a high profile lawyer just to get the information to be transparent, right? And to seek independent testing and independent studies, because we know in Mississippi, this is a very racist town, right? There's a lot of racism and a lot of corruption that's running rampant allegedly down there in the police department. So they can't be trusted. And then we have July 13th through the 14th, there was a viral pool party photo that is claimed, that is online, that is claimed to have been taken post the Horn Island proof. This has been disputed. There is a friend that is saying that this was not after on the night of July 4th. A friend is saying that this photo is from a June 27th pool party. And there's also metadata that's encrypted in the photo that supports that that photo was taken on June 27th. Okay. And this family is why I was talking about us not just running with a story because someone put a post up and they stated, this happened that night. We had to be careful about that because a lot of us are believing that that happened that night, but there's actually evidence that that photo was taken on June 27th. So that photo was taken way before Nolan went to Horn Island and way before these terrible things happened to him. So this is what I mean by discernment, okay? I understand we're all emotional and we see a picture with him at a pool party with all these people there. Yes, I get it. That pissed me off too. But again, we have to remain clear and we have to separate rumors from facts. And right now, the facts are pointing toward that photo being taken on June 27th, not July 4th or even July 5th. So while that photo is pretty upsetting to a lot of people, that photo was not, it's not really evidence in what happened to him, right? So we're still questioning these things. Who saw Nolan last? When was he last seen? Who left the island? Who had Nolan's phone and his keys? What was reported to law enforcement? And why does every part of the story not line up, right? So these are the questions that matter because the timeline really is the timeline that we have now. Now we have to answer these other questions to fill in these gaps in between this timeline so we can really see what is going on with this case. So we're not gonna, again, we're not gonna go further into that photo because that photo is claimed to be disputed. Okay. So let's look at a little bit about what is confirmed and what is not confirmed. And we're going to separate this carefully. So what we can definitely say is that Nolan went to the island. He didn't return home. The body found is believed to be Nolan's was recovered. His family publicly demanded more answers. Attorney Ben Crump is now involved. I'm hearing that Colin Kaepernick from the NFL, the one they blacklisted from the NFL, I'm hearing that he has paid for the independent autopsy. And I'm hearing like a couple other people are chipping in to help the family with some of these costs, which is great. This is what I called for last week. People who have clout, people who can do something about this in our community need to step up and do what they can. So I want to salute Colin Kaepernick for his efforts in helping with the independent autopsy and all that. So again, the family has called for transparency and an independent review. So these are the things that we can't say as fact yet. Okay. And these are some of the questions that we're still looking to be answered. We can't say exactly what happened to Nolan. We don't know. We cannot say the official cause or manner of death until that autopsy report is released. We cannot say who is responsible for anything without verified evidence, right? Even though we all have our suspicions, we all kind of, know what happened, but we can't say that as fact, family. You know what I mean? We know what we know, and we know what we think in our heart. That doesn't make it a fact. And stuff like this, we have to be careful so we're not spreading falsehoods that can potentially, you know, cause some delays with the case. All right. We cannot treat every online claim like it's a fact. Like this stuff has to be investigated. It has to be confirmed. It has to go through a process. And of course, I want the people to go down for who did this, but we have to do it the right way. That's very important. Okay. Because again, this is justice on earth. This isn't just revenge on earth, right? We want to get justice. That means you are getting justice from the correct people. Justice is a penalty or a reward for your actions. So we want the penalty to happen to the right people, right? So this is why it's important not to just spread the misinformation online. And I get how we all feel. Trust me. I, of all people, get exactly how we all feel. Okay. These are some of the concerns that Nolan's family has raised. They want to know, of course, what happened right before he disappeared. They want the full timeline, just like we all do. They want to know why certain belongings were reportedly left on the island, but other belongings were with Nolan. They want to understand the accounts that are given by the people who were with him. And they want the investigation to be handled with full transparency. None of these are unreasonable things to ask for, especially when your child has been unalived. These are all very reasonable things to ask for. I know some people want to say, frame it a different way, but you need to zip it because this woman and her family lost their child and they have every right to demand these answers. We as a community have every right to demand that these questions be answered. Okay. Like I said before, if these tables were turned and Nolan was a single white child in a group of black children, and he was the one that didn't return home, I can guarantee you that every black child would be arrested, okay? And they would have to be proven innocent, okay? They would have to prove their innocence before anyone would listen to them. So we just want to make sure that we're being clear. We know that America has two different judicial systems, two different legal systems, right? So, this young black man disappeared during a group outing, okay? He doesn't come home. The family has every right, okay? And these questions are not accusations. These questions are part of the official record keeping process. We can't let social media run the investigation. Now, I know we're good at it, right? I know y'all are good at like finding people and all that. Y'all are great. I get that. But like with cases like this, they're very high profile. So you really have to let them work through it. They have all the right people in their team. They got attorney Ben Crump. I know that, some people have their problems with him, but he is an attorney. And, for a fee, these attorneys will do the job for you. So I'm sure that he would like to get to the bottom of this just like his parents want to get to the bottom of it. So, while social media can help bring attention to the case, it can also confuse the record because people are reporting things and are claiming things as proof when they have not really been vetted and they have not really been confirmed. So those are the things that we need to make sure we do. And that's what we're going to make sure we do on this show. Everyone else, obviously can do what they want, but justice demands the truth. And without the truth, there is no justice. So I don't want to hear about any exaggerated claims. I don't want to hear about a photo that was taken a week before. Like, we need to get valid proof of what was going on with Nolan that night. Now, before we go any further, we do need to remember that Nolan was more than a headline. Again, he is someone's son. He is a student. He is a friend. He is an athlete. He was a young man who had a bright future ahead of him. Okay. And now he has a family that's grieving him and that is demanding answers and demanding transparency while the people who he was with are hiding behind a bunch of shields, right? They have hired attorneys. I think one of the mothers is a judge. So, they're spinning their wheels. They're doing what they know how to do, and that is to avoid being questioned, lawyered up, scrub their social media profiles. Okay. So we still have to make sure that we remember that when we look at the 7D cultural ascension breakdown for this, with this case for Nolan, the dormant phase is when nothing is moving. And right now we're out of that dormant phase. No one's being silent about this. There's really no inactivity. Things are on the move. So they're way past the dormant phase. You can't stay dormant when someone's life gets taken. That is, if nothing else calls you to action, that should be a call to action for you. Okay, the next thing is delineate, right? That means we commit to the work, we commit to each other, we commit to continuing to support each other. And this is why I'm very happy to hear that Attorney Crump is on the case. I'm happy to hear that Colin Kaepernick has stepped up. I forget the other celebrity's name. There's another celebrity who stepped up and gave, I think, $100,000. I'll try to get that confirmed to see who that was. I forget who that was. But people in the community are stepping up and they're helping people with money, people who have clout, because we know that's what everyone wants to listen to, right? You want to listen to people who have money, power, and clout. Like that's all people care about, right? So I think it's good that the family is coming together. Then the next thing we need to do is discuss. And that's what we're doing right now. We're discussing the case, but we're doing it responsibly. At least we're going to do it responsibly from Justice on Earth lens. I would hope that others in the community would discuss the case responsibly and also make sure that you're being responsible and sensitive to his family and his friends that are online. Because again, he was a kid who had a full life. He was very bright from what I could tell. He was very fun and very loving and really accepted all people, right? So we need to make sure that we are discussing this case with responsibility and with respect. Okay, and then using our discernment. That means looking beneath the surface. Just like with this pool party photo, you have to use your discernment. Just because someone posted it and put a caption there doesn't mean that it's true. That photo has since then been vetted and since then been found out that it took place at least a week before the whole event happened on July 4th. Okay. And then the next thing is we're going to be documenting, right? We're documenting everything. We're documenting right now. We're looking at timelines. We're looking at statements. We're looking at screenshots, public updates, news reports, official releases, the family statements, the attorney statements. If it is not documented, then it could be erased, it could be twisted, or it could be forgotten. And that's why we have to continue to document things and make sure that we're doing that respectfully and with accountability, documenting what's true. Okay. Then comes a development phase where we build something from what we're going through for this. So for this case, to me, we need to build safety protocols. I said it last week. We need to build safety protocols when our kids are out on group trips. We need to have accountability amongst the friend group, emergency contact plans, ICE numbers, ICE numbers in your phone. I know ICE means something different now, but ICE always stood for in case of emergency. So, have a ICE contact in your phone that can be called, or you can speed dial it if something's going on, even if it's leaving it on the call and letting the voicemail pick up what's going on in the background, because that's a documented record, right? Finally, deployment. We are in the Supreme Seventh State in this Nolan Wells case. We are in full deployment mode. That means we are making coordinated actions, really supporting a family, supporting all the verified updates, spreading the truth about the verified updates and preserving the evidence, right? And we need to encourage witnesses to come forward. Like if anyone was there and they're feeling guilty and they know what happened, just come forward. Just come forward. It will be the best decision you made in your life. And hey, it could save your life by coming forward with this information. So we want to keep this story alive, of course, without turning it into a rumor mill, because here we keep the record, not rumors. So I'm not going to even indulge in the rumors that are going on. And that's how we move from grieving into power where you can get things done, right? Because we've grieved enough. I mean, our whole community has been under attack in this country, our whole bloodline from generation to generation to generation. So we've already been grieving, we've already been depressed, we've already gone through all of these motions. This is the time to turn all of that into action and into power. Okay. So like I said, safety protocols need to be put in place, especially if you have young kids. We need to make that a new standard for ourselves, right? For ourselves. Make sure our kids have a plan when they are away from us, right? Families should know the location you're going to, their transportation. I'm going to tell you right now, my daughter has her location on her phone. If I look on my phone and I see her location's off, I call her and be like, why is your location off? Where are you? Like, I don't care what you want to call that. I call that being safe, because in the days that we live in now, anything could happen to these kids. So the least that you can do is keep the location from their phone on, because they all have phones now. So let's talk a little bit about the Colin Wiley matter, because that's obviously still going on in the news, and we want to make sure we're keeping the record for young Colin Wiley, who was 1 years old, who was unalived after the police fired into his mother and his aunt's vehicle outside of a Walmart in Mississippi. And this other thing happened in Mississippi too. So Mississippi is really revving up the hatred and they're revving up all of their disdain that they have toward Black Americans. It's all coming back full circle. Of course, everything is cyclical, and I could get into the timing of how this is all taking place, but I'm not going to go there in this episode. But just know, family, that this is taking place for a reason right now, and it's going to require a coordinated effort and a coordinated response from us as a nation. Okay, so just keep that in mind and keep yourself ready, because when you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. Okay. And we need to make sure that we keep young Cohen Wiley's name alive. I know that the family is asking for some transparency there. I know there was an autopsy done there, and that is in dispute of what the police are saying. So I don't know how tight lipped they are keeping that, but it's definitely something that we need to keep our eyes on for, and to make sure that we follow up with that, to make sure that they're not trying to weasel their way out of those police officers catching a case and catching the charge for unaliving a 1-year-old child, when his parents didn't even do anything. Nothing was done wrong. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about our reparations. We know America turned fake 250 years old, fake America, right? It turned 250 years old, but Black Americans still don't have the reparations. This is why all this stuff is going on in this country. This is why the administration that is in office is dealing with all this stuff that they're dealing with across seas. This country is not going to see peace until it corrects the rights that it wronged to the people who own this land originally, and the people who they enslaved as prisoners of war on this land. Okay. So taken as prisoners of war on our own land, you know, some came over the Atlantic slave trade, 300,000 to the mainland. And then they did go ahead and continue to do the intra Americas slave trade. So all of that was going on, right? Stolen land, stolen labor, our land getting lost. They're even doing things to this day where they're doing all this like maniacal things just to steal people's land, right? So this is continuing to go on. Police harm, violence, discrimination, generations of wealth extraction, right? So our reparations fight is not about charity, it's about repair. Of course, I said that last week. Reparations, the root word is repair, and repair will be made to the Black American nation, to the Black American community. So these are the things that we need to definitely make sure that we keep in the forefront, and that we keep being vocal about. No tangibles, no vote. So all of this changing the voting map and all of that, continue to do that. Do what you like. We're not coming out to vote anyway. You're not giving us what we need. We're going to get it one way or another. So we're just going to have to take a different route to get there. So let's go into Black owned business spotlights of the week. This week, we're going to be spotlighting the Black and Nobel bookstore. I believe they just opened a new one down 422 South Street. The original one is in North Philadelphia. That's the one that I'm familiar with. But Black and Nobel has opened up another store down South Philly, 422 South Street. So make sure you get down there to support the brothers down there. Also, there's another bookstore in West Philly, Hakeem's bookstore at 210 South 52nd Street. Okay. So make sure you guys get over there to support the bookstores and support these businesses. We should be reading, we should be studying our history, we should be doing all this kind of stuff and commiserating with the others in the community, right? Talking to them, finding out what their strengths are, finding out if there's things you can barter with them for. Okay, because the system is about to go back to some of those things. And these are our community spaces. So these turn into like cultural archives for us. So these are the types of places that we need to support and make sure that we're moving our dollars into these places. I do have some things coming up with some Black owned nail salons. I'm going to be kind of trying to highlight those for a lot of the women, because I know we're on a boycott of the Asian businesses. So I want to get some more nail salons out there. I think everyone's pretty much found new hair stores. But if not, I have a bunch of Black owned hair stores that you guys can, frequent. And also I'm going to get started on the Black owned salons. So let's go ahead and get ready to close out. So our call to action for this week is to continue to say Nolan's name, but do not spread rumors and claims without the facts, because that kind of hurts the case and that gets people confused about what's actually going on and where we actually are in the case. You want to follow what the family's doing and follow what Attorney Crump is doing, because that's going to give you the most transparent view and the most transparent answers about what's going on with this case. And you want to track all of the official updates, right? Preserve them and document them. Also, keep Cohen Wiley in the record. We're going to still be demanding for the police footage. They have not released this footage. And it's funny that they're not releasing the footage and that the autopsy came back and disputed what they said, because they're lying. That's why they're not releasing the footage, right? So it doesn't take a rocket science to know that. But young Cohen Wiley also needs to have justice in his name. Make sure you're paying attention to the voter rights if that's what you're interested in. I didn't really cover that too much this week because I really don't care about the voter rights. I've been stopped voting. I'm not voting. And unless I hear someone say reparations for Black American lineage specifically, you're not going to see me voting. So that's fine. But if some people are interested in that and they think that still helps, if you feel like that's going to help you, then have at it. But there is a lot going on around that. So you need to do your research about what's going on with the voting rights. Okay. Now, you also need to be supporting at least one of these Black owned businesses. Okay. So either the bookstores or, the hair stores, whatever it is, whatever it is, you want to make sure you're supporting Black owned business, and you want to continue to support each other and continue to keep the record. All right. Because we have to stick together. All right. We don't have allies. We don't have friends in this thing. This is something that we have to do as a community. We have to do as a nation. Okay. So I just wanted to get that out there. The main premise of this show was to really, let y'all know that that pool party photo, while I know it's upsetting and we want that to be that night, I just don't think it is. There would not be metadata on the photo of June 27th if it was taken on the night of July 5th. It just wouldn't have previous metadata on it. There's no way to reverse timestamp that metadata that is on encrypted in photos. Okay. So these are the types of things. So that's really it for Justice on Earth this week. Hopefully you got something out of this, and make sure you keep the record on anything that's going on. If you have any stories that you want me to cover for next week, you can go ahead and put them in the comments below. Until then, make sure you share Black Education Empowers True Vision with a friend. And don't forget, right now we have Goldfingers streaming on Hip Hop Hour. We have Knowledge Born of Laws streaming on Cultural Reflections. And of course, we have the weekly Justice on Earth show streaming, and Numbers Matter will be live this Thursday night with the Dreams, Dollars, and Destiny crew. So I want to say peace, love, kings and queens up to the nation. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in to this week's Justice on Earth. The record must be kept. I'm Teller B, and I'm out.